Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's November 22nd, and I apologize for being out today. But as my later class periods can attest, I seem to have been hit by a cold that was coming on strong yesterday, and I'm not relieved. So we're going to go ahead with notes today. I had a sort of a lighter day planned for today in preparation for next week where we're only going to be here 2 days. Please know that if you're planning on not being here next Monday and Tuesday, I do have the items copied for next Monday and Tuesday behind my desk. There is the notes for 7 and then a packet. If you want to ask the sub to give those to you, you can, and then you'll have those when you're gone. Today's lesson is pretty long, and it's actually something that I broke up into 2 days. So the original plan was for us to just do part 1 of the notes today and have no assignment. And then on Monday, finish those out, part 2. And then on Monday into Tuesday will be a total work day where we will work on a packet over all the material in Friday, Monday. And hopefully the way that's planned out, you'll have no assignment. You should have no assignment over the break because you'll have the entire half day Monday and all of Tuesday to get that done. So with that being said, we have notes to do today and there is no assignment. When we are done, the expectation will be that you will take out your iPad and you will go into the IXL diagnostic. Not update your diagnostic, although you could if you wanted to see if it moved. But you will pick skills of your recommendation or just go to your recommendation screen. And until the bell rings, from the time the video finishes till the bell rings, everybody's going to be logging minutes in their IXL on their own individual skills. Really can't have you submit anything since everybody will be doing something different. What I'm going to do is look at the log each period or when I go in and before I see you on Monday and make sure that however many minutes the video is, that you will then have the rest of the period minutes in IXL. And so the goal is you get the notes finished and you make sure that you are working and quiet and not causing issues for the sub. Okay, first thing, please have your IXL submitted. If your IXL are not done, then after the video is over, that's your first priority, is finishing those items. Second, hopefully you got assignment 53 finished. That was your big ideas assignment on proportional. As far as questions that you have, since I'm not here today to go over those, we can answer those questions on Monday. So if you can save those till Monday, I will gladly discuss those when we get here. So this right here just states what we did. This is all about slope. We've talked about slope now for about 5 days. Today we're going to be discussing the y-intercept. We talked about that briefly in our slope assignment. And we are going to begin talking about one of those forms of equations that I referenced yesterday in class, that the form the equation in matters, and we're going to be investigating the slope-intercept form. At this time, the notes on the fill-in notes, the sub needs to deliver to you so you have those. And that way you have those to fill out with the video. If at any time I'm going too fast, you can pause the video and let everybody catch up. I hope you're watching this collectively because I do feel like people might pay a little more attention than we did last time we did our individual notes. If you're watching them individually, make sure you have the handout key. All right, essential question, what is a y-intercept? How do I find it from graphs and tables? Okay, first thing you need to know is the y-intercept in mathematics is labeled B, okay? I'm not really sure why. I am sure why, but too hard to explain when I'm not here in class. Just like the slope is universally lettered M, the y-intercept is always labeled B. So the y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. It's also where the x value is 0, and it is often referred to as b. So, when you're talking about the y-intercept, you can talk about it as 0 and the number that's crossing, or you can say b equals the number. What you cannot say is you cannot say y equals the number, because we have learned already that y equals a number is a line. It's actually a special line. It's a horizontal line. So either write it as an ordered pair, or you can write it as b. Has to be labeled one or the other. We've extensively exhausted the fact that in a slope, in a graph, the slope is the rise over the run, and that can be down and right, down and left, lots of different options. Or we've learned pretty well how to use the ordered pair formula from a table or just a set of ordered pairs. So we are going to put that together today. We are going to look at graphs, we're going to look at tables, and we are going to find the slope, and then we're going to find the y-intercept. So looking at number 1, I'm going to need to find 2 points. You can use any points that are easy to calculate. Here I'm going to use the point 0, 3 and 1, 1. And to find that slope, I'm going to go down 2 and right 1. That makes my slope negative 2 over 1. Negative 2 over 1, which I would then reduce to negative 2. And the y-intercept is wherever it's crossing the y-axis. And if you notice, I picked that point right here. My y-intercept is at 3. The ordered pair would be 0, 3. Because it's written b, I could have just written 3. That would be okay. That would tell me, hey, I'm talking about the y-axis value. So my answers would be negative 2 and 0, 3. And number 2, again, pick some points. Doesn't matter which points you pick. Any points of the table will work. If I'm looking at these two, I would have, I need to use something besides that highlighter. I would have negative 24 minus negative 12 over 1 minus 0. So I'm going to keep change here, which is going to give me negative 12. So my slope is negative 12. And my y-intercept is wherever the ordered pair 0 and some number. So I look through the table for where it's hitting 0. It's hitting 0 at negative 12. So my slope's negative 12. My y-intercept would be negative 12. And then I could run that slope if I plotted those points there. I would need a pretty big graph to plot that one. Pause the video right now and see if you can find the slope and the y-intercept from these two, for these two, before you hit play. All right, I hope you started here and picked some points. Again, doesn't matter which one, so you're going to have 110 minus 70. 110 minus 70 is going to be 40 over 2 minus 1. 2 minus 1, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So my slope is going to be 40. And my y-intercept, my y-intercept is not in the table. So when the y-intercept is not in the table, you have to determine, can I figure out the y-intercept? And so we start looking at this table and see, do we see a pattern in the y's? So here I'm going down 40, here I'm going down 40, here I'm going down 40, here I'm going down 40. It would make sense the next point would be down 40, which would be at 30. Then I can look over here and say, if I see the same pattern here, I'm at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The next point will be 0. So that means even though it's not in the table, I can predict what that point would be. It would be at 0, 30. And again, if it's written b equals, you can just write b equals 30. That will be acceptable. Not y equals 30, but b equals 30. Number 4. Again, I'm going to go from here to a point here. Now be careful. Notice the units here. It is up 3, but that 3 does not mean 3. That 3 means 15, up 15, over 3. I guess I could have just simply went up 1. I didn't even notice. Up 1 and over 1, but that up 1 would be up 5. My slope would be 5. Definitely a positive slope. My y-intercept's happening right here. B is at negative 15. Let's look at some real world problems here. This one is about daily pay. One of the things, I've graded the quizzes. I'm over halfway done. Being ill last night did not help things, but one of the things I know is that lots of you struggled with interpret the slope. And the interpreting the slope is telling me what is the y label over the x label. So this one would be about dollars per hour. And that's what my slope would represent. You can find the slope. You would say, okay, if I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to go right here, that would be up 1 box, but 1 box is not 1 in this case. It looks like every box is 15. They've skipped some. So my slope would be 15, which means you're making $15 every hour. The y-intercept here would be at 15. So you get $15 for coming in, working 0 just for showing up, and then you get $15 for every hour you're there. So at the end of 1 hour of work, oh, I have that wrong. It is not 15, Miss Kearns. It's 45. My apologies. At the end of 1 hour of work, you will have made $60. Your $45 for coming plus your hourly rate. That's a pretty good gig. Notice that any of these that we have done so far, none of the graphs we've completed have been proportional because none of them have gone through the origin. All right, when you're just given 2 sets of points or a whole set of points, like you are here in number 6, pick any 2. I often try to pick the point that I know is the y-intercept, so I'm focused on that. Remember, the y-intercept is always going to be in the form 0 some number. So I know the y-intercept is -6. No picture needed, no graph. I don't need to make a table. Now I'm going to do the the slope formula. So I have -9 minus -6. And I'm going to keep change that. And I'm going to have, is that +2 over 0? That's not a negative. +2 over 0, so my slope is going to be -3 over 2. That's -9 plus 6, -3, 2 minus 0, 2. All right, last question. This is where we're going to start doing some application. Which function has the greatest initial value? So we've done a few already, yesterday's notes and some last week where we were talking about which function has the biggest slope or which one's increasing the fastest or the slowest. That's always referencing slope. Now we can start talking about the greatest initial value. The initial value is going to be the y-intercept. And so if you look down here, we have few ways that you're finding the y-intercept in this one. You can find the y-intercept by locating the point. So the point here would be this one. So this one has a b value of -2. This one has a b value of 4, reading that from the table whenever x is 0. And then this one I'm going to read from the table, and I need to make that bigger because I can't see very well this morning. That's going to be b is 5. So which item has the bigger initial value? C, larger initial value. You try 7 right now on your paper. Which function is increasing at the greatest rate? Increasing at the greatest rate, does that mean you're looking for the y-intercept or you're looking for the slope? Hopefully you all agree that means you're looking for the slope. So in each of these, you're going to need to find the value of the slope. Here we're going to have 10 minus 7 over 2 minus 0. That's a slope of 3/2. Here we're going to have a slope of 3 minus 2 over 3 minus 0. Remember, I'm starting in the purple one, moving to the blue one. That's going to give me a slope of 1/3. Hopefully you agree D is greater than E, but do I know if it's the greatest one? So I'm going to come over here to this picture, and I'm going to go from this point. Let me see if I have these marked. To this point, and from those 2 points, that is up 1 unit. And it looks like that is a 2 there. 2, 4, 6, 8. Over 2 units. So F would be 1/2. And 1/2 is greater than E. So E's definitely not it. E's the smallest. And then when I compare 3/2 and 1/2, 3/2 is more than 1. So function D would have the fastest increasing slope, or the slope increasing at the greatest rate. All right, so there we've worked on identifying those items. So now that you can identify them, what the heck do we do with them? Let's turn the page. And that brings us to this form for equations that I've been talking about since back in Unit 3, where the order matters. And anytime you get an equation written in this form, you might as well start saying it now. Y equals mx plus b. You're going to be saying it for a long few years in your math career. And in this equation, if you've been paying attention, we've been analyzing things as m now for a couple of days. We've introduced what b means. So when I have this equation, y equals mx plus b, m is the slope, b is the y-intercept. This would be in a formula, in accounting, and b is the ordered pair where x is 0 and b is a value. Input an x value, determining the matching y value, and you get an ordered pair in slope-intercept form. Okay, so what that is all saying is, if I look at this equation right here in number 1, is it in slope-intercept form? Slope-intercept form is in the form where we have solved for y, which is why way back in Unit 3, when we started working with multiple variables, I said, hey, eventually solving for y is going to be super important. Today is a super important day. If you have an equation that has got y isolated, then the coefficient of the x value is the slope. What's the coefficient of this x value? 1. Remember, 1's implied. And the number that is being added or subtracted to it, the constant, that's why the constant has to be last, is the b value. So the constant in this one would be -2. Following that same pattern, y equals 2/3 x. 2/3 is the coefficient, so that's m. And b is not there, so that doesn't mean you're going to write none. Your ordered pair would be 0, 0. If there's nothing written here, that means the y value is 0. When the x value is 0, hopefully we all know what point that is, the origin. Number 3, what's the what's the x, coefficient? 3. And the y-intercept is where it's crossing the y-axis. Notice it says plus b. So when I have a minus b in here, that means this is going to be -10, much like it was back here in number 1. Number 4 is trying to trick you. First question I will ask you on a quiz or test at the end of the unit is this in slope-intercept form? And hopefully you all agree that it is not. To be in slope-intercept form, it would need to be rewritten as y equals negative 4x plus 2. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that to give me m, as long as you know that m is always whatever is with the x value. So in this case, m would be negative 4, and the y would be 2. Now, people who aren't paying attention, people who aren't studying, people who aren't processing this, when I put number 4 on the test, they'll tell me that m is 2 and the y is negative, or the y-intercept is negative 4, because they'll just get used to it. It's like whatever's first is the m, and whatever's second's the b. And that's not true. That's only true if it's in slope-intercept form. Okay? Second thing you have to be able to do is write an equation in slope-intercept form. So if it follows this pattern, and I know I've got to fill in y equals mx plus b, I say, well, what's my slope? 4. What's my y-intercept? Negative 5. The equation would be y equals 4x minus 5. So if you look back at the front of the page we did together, where we just went through and found all the m's and b's on that page, you could have, then I could have said, write an equation for all of those situations. And to write an equation for all those situations, you would take whatever you had for m, put it in front of x. Whatever you had for the b value, add that or subtract that to the end. In number 6, you would have y equals negative 4/3 x plus 1. You try 7, 8, and 9. Pause the video. See if you can write those 3 equations. Hopefully you pause that video there. You're going to have y equals negative x. Folks, remember, I'm not going to write negative 1. If you have negative 1 right now, because you're getting used to it. But again, negative 1 and positive 1 are always implied. Minus 10. Ooh, this one's always interesting. Y equals 0x plus 2. Do you really think we're going to leave 0x? Hopefully you do not think that. We're going to write this as y equals 2. And then I can say what kind of line is number 8. And hopefully we all know what kind of line this would be. This would be a horizontal line. We should know that because it has 0 slope. That means it's flat. And it's crossing the grid at all the values where y is 2. And finally, you've got y equals 3/5 x. If there is no y-intercept, I'm not going to write plus 0, just like I did not do that up on the previous screen right here. So if there is no y-intercept, you just leave that blank. That would be your final answer there on number 9. Okay? What if I ask you to write an equation from a table? Well, again, if you understand that the only thing you need to write an equation is mx, is the m value and the b value. It doesn't matter if I give you a table, a picture, I label them. Any form, you need those 2 things. So you figure out the slope, you figure out the y-intercept, where the value is 0, and you use that equation, slope-intercept form. If the y-intercept is not found in the table, set up the equation and solve for b. I don't think we have to do that in any of these. We may have to do that when I return. To do this, you substitute an m in that point and solve for b. So here we go. Write the equation for each of these. Again, y equals blank x plus blank. So I'm going to look in the table. I don't care really which one you get first. I often look for the y-intercept first because it's easier. So I'm going to have plus 6. And then I'm looking for the change in y over the change in x. So it's going to be 8 minus 6. That's 2. 1 minus 0. That's 1. My equation is going to be y equals 2x plus 6. Why don't you pause the video and see if you can do the next 2? Y equals mx plus b. Again, the b value is going to be right here at 10, so I'm going to have plus 10. Finding the slope here, I would say, well, if I'm going from 6 to 10, that's plus 4. Oh, no. I should not do that. That's not plus 4. It's minus 4 because I'm subtracting those. 6 minus 10, negative 4. And 1 minus 0. So my slope is going to be y equals negative 4x plus 10. Don't forget your x. Lots of kids write negative 4 plus 10. That's not an equation with a variable. In number 12, y equals mx plus b. I'm going to plug in what I get when x is 0. Don't confuse that with that point. It's got to be x is 0. So I'm going to be adding 200 here because that's where x is 0. And then I'm doing 200 minus 150. So that's 50. And 0 minus negative 1. 0 minus negative 1 is going to be 1. So that means my equation is y equals 50x plus 200. Now, I'm doing this at 6 a.m. when I'm feeling pretty lousy. I hope I didn't make any errors. If you think I made an error somewhere in the note, put a star by it. And when I return on Monday and we continue the rest of this discussion, there's a few more little pieces that we're going to go over. Then I can correct that for you. Okay? Today, this is not us. This is not us. I left that in there to fix things. So, what you're going to do right now that you are done is you're going to take out your iPad. And you are going to work on your IXL, finishing this week's if they weren't done. And you're going to work on your individual recommendations. Till the bell rings. I didn't spell that right. Recommendations. Yes. Till bell rings. Again, I'm going to check how long the video is. Hasn't been that long, maybe 15, 20 minutes. Remainder of the period, you're going to be working on those IXL skills. If you're not logging any minutes, I will be adding an extra assignment over Thanksgiving break of the number of minutes you have to get done. So, work now. Nothing to submit. Nothing to have to do this weekend. I know this weekend is a busy weekend with the holiday approaching. So make sure you are quiet and silently working, and have a good weekend.